So this week it's been announced when the final European playoff games will take place. The Scotland versus Ukraine game will take place on the 1st of June, with the final taking place 4 days later on the 5th of June in Cardiff. That will be against Wales, who have already qualified through to the final. So with that in mind, I thought I would take a closer look at these three teams and to see who I think England may wish to avoid or what difficulties each team may bring to England. So I'm going to take a quick run through each team, see how they qualified and see where this leaves them coming into these playoff matches at the beginning of June. So welcome back to the channel. Please like and subscribe if you're new here. So let's start with Wales then. So Wales, obviously, like I've just said, are into the final of the playoffs. They beat Austria 2-1 in a home game. It was the Bale show, really. A wonderful free kick and a wonderful second goal. Put them 2-0 up. Austria got a goal back, but it wasn't enough. In a Welsh shirt, we all know that Bale is just unbelievable. Let's be honest, he's good in the Madrid shirt as well. I don't know what's going off over there. But for Wales, he is absolutely world class. So Wales are going to put their qualification group up here. I'll do it for each team. They qualified second in their group. They were second only behind Belgium. They lost against Belgium in the first game, but on the return fixture, actually they picked up a very, very impressive draw. They're actually on really good form as well. They haven't lost since the 4-0 defeat against Denmark back in Euro 2020. Bad night for Wales, that was. So Wales did really well in their qualification group. They did really well against Austria. Their biggest threat obviously showed his head again, so he's still got it. So Wales are in a very, very strong position and they've done very well to get to that playoff final. FIFA rankings wise, they are the strongest team. They're 18th with Ukraine 27th and Scotland on 39. If you believe FIFA ratings, I always say that. So Scotland in their group finished in Group F, second behind only Denmark. Again, like Wales, they only lost one game. They lost 2-0 against Denmark, but won the return leg quite convincingly in putting a brilliant performance at Hampden and won 2-0 against Denmark on the return fixture. Denmark, of course, Euro 2020 semi-finalists. Scotland have also picked up some very convincing results. They drew 1-1 with Poland. They drew 2-2 with Austria, is obviously the team that Wales beat to get through to the final. The difference was that Scotland were away from home. And although Scotland don't have a standout talent like Bale, they're currently playing some brilliant football. They've got obviously some really class players as well. Shea Adams, Andy Robertson, Kieran Tierney, McGinn, Gilmore. So they've got plenty of talent and they're on a good run of form. Those last two World Cup qualification games against Denmark and Israel were just brilliant performances, so don't count Scotland out. And finally, you've got Ukraine. They finished second only behind France in Group D, and unlike Wales and Scotland, they didn't actually lose a single game. They actually picked up incredibly impressive results against France, both home and away, during both games, so brilliant result for them. They're clearly no pushovers. They haven't lost neither since Euro 2020, and that was again another 4-0 loss, but that was against England. However, because of current issues, unlike Scotland and Wales, they haven't actually played since November, so that may be a good thing or a bad thing. I'm thinking it's a bad thing. You know, they haven't been together for a long time, but it was an impressive 2-0 win against Bosnia. They've obviously also got players that England fans will know, such as Zinchenko and Yarmolenko, obviously two very, very good players in the Premier League. So Ukraine are also a very, very strong team. So that's all three teams in terms of their qualification and most recent form. So based on that, looking at all three teams, I think whatever team goes through, they're going to automatically become second favourites in this group. I really do believe that. These teams have picked up some impressive results against some oppositions that are already qualified for the World Cup. I think it shows you that some of these teams only losing one game or going unbeaten in their qualification campaign show how difficult it is to qualify from Europe to get into the World Cup with only the top teams going through. Clearly shows that European competition is so strong and these teams are no pushovers. So from an England perspective though, Scotland and Wales are obviously much tougher games than Ukraine, just because of all the baggage that comes with it. The emotions, the fact that, you know, obviously they're like derbies, basic international derbies, all the history. And the difference is that that will only apply to England. The same pressures and the same tension and the same build-ups to the game against Scotland and Wales won't be the same for the USA and Iran. So that puts England at a disadvantage if either one of those teams qualify. So from a simplistic point of view, you would want Ukraine as an England fan, just a team that is just the same as everybody else. Obviously, though, the tensions in Ukraine mean for Ukrainian fans and people, it's going to be a huge tournament if they get there. That same pressure will apply against the USA, Iran and England, so it'll be spread evenly. It won't just be England who will have the pressure on them during that third game. However, From a sheer sporting spectacular and sheer passion and wanting to see it, an England-Scotland in a World Cup would be absolutely amazing. As would Wales, but I think England-Scotland being the oldest international game in the world, the oldest international fixture in the world, would be a huge game, wouldn't it? It'd be a fantastic occasion. What a day that would be. But obviously it makes the group much tougher for England. Having said all that though, I think Wales are favourites to get through to the World Cup. They're already in the final, obviously, so we're talking about one result for them rather than two for the other teams, Scotland or Ukraine. But looking at how the fixtures are, the final will be in Cardiff. Cardiff, Bale, the form Wales are on at the minute off the back of that excellent Austria result, you would probably put them as favourites. They are a strong team. I think based on home advantage, Scotland are favourites to make it through to the final to play them. I think Ukraine, I think the occasion might be too much for them. There's a lot of pressure on them to do well, a lot of emotion, and it may just override them a little bit. But Scotland being at home in that game against Ukraine, Scotland at home are a completely different kettle of fish than what they are away. They're a good team either side, but at home they can cause anybody a lot of problems, and they've shown that recently. So I do think it will be a Scotland-Wales playoff final, and I do think that home advantage for Wales will give them the edge, put them into that group, and they'll be in England's group with Iran and the USA. I think if it is Wales, like I said, I think if it is Wales, Scotland or Ukraine, any of those are second favourites. I think if it's Wales, they're definitely second favourites in that group for me. And it would be a very tough fixture. Out of the three, I probably wouldn't pick that though. But at least when I pick from a rivalry, I'd rather have Scotland. And I think just for what's going off for Ukraine at the minute, every neutral would want Ukraine to go through. So for me personally, Wales would be my third choice. I do think they're the most likely to go through. So that's it for this video. Please let me know your comments below. What do you think as England fans? What do you think as fans from all over the world? Do you want to see England versus Scotland, Wales, Ukraine? Do you think it'll be interesting to see those teams against the US or Iran? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you on the next video.